Hey, hi, hello. Welcome back. I'm Heather, or Miss Postawait if you're one of my students, and this is Pages for Postawait. I'm so glad you're here. Today, we are going to talk about my middle grade wrap up, all the books that I read for middle grade in December. So if that sounds good, stick around. Okay, so to get started, I read 6 middle grade books in December, really enjoyed them. None were below a 4 stars. That's, pretty par for the course for me. So I'm going to talk about them in order of when I read them. So at the very beginning of the month, I read Making Bombs for Hitler. This is a series, and I actually didn't know it was a series until after I started it, by, I'm so sorry, here's her name, Marsha, Forchuk, Skrypuch. I am probably mutilating that. So sorry. As you can tell, or maybe you can't, this is from my classroom library, and it is really well loved. We'll just say it gets checked out a lot. It's middle school, and the title pretty much says it all. So this is a very popular book to pick out. Whether or not the kid continues reading it is up to them. It's actually a very interesting historical fiction, obviously set in World War II, but we are actually looking at prison camps that are not Jewish prisoners in this book. We're actually looking at prisoner camps that had people for other reasons from other countries. They're all children that are in here, but they're a little bit older. In fact, our main character, who is Lida. Lida actually ends up lying about her age in an effort to not be put in a certain line. So although she doesn't know what happens to the younger kids, they don't stick around. And so she lies about her age and puts herself at 13, I think, but she's really 9. She does turn 10 during the books. Lida is actually from the Ukraine, and she is put with other Ukrainian girls. The thing about that is that the Nazi prison camps don't recognize Ukraine. They just keep telling her she's Russian, and they treat Russian prisoners the worst. But they do feed them. It's a little bit different in the way, like some of the other books or portrayals or prison camps that I've read about or that I've had the experience learning about. This one was a little bit different. And so the perspective I enjoyed. Hard topic. I really feel like my students, if they get through it, really get a new insight, I guess, or a different point of view. So I appreciate that. The series continues on and has other people that are kind of important in Lida's life that show up. She has a particular friend that she meets within the camps. I know he's got a more recent book, and then her and her sister are separated very early in the book, and her book is the next one. I actually own that one, and I think it's called Stolen by the Nazis or something like that. Highly recommend the series. Historical fiction, it hits a certain place in my heart. It's a middle grade book. I really feel like kids get to really understand it. You do have some very hard things, and I love historical fiction because it opens doors for you to be able to talk about those things. So all books do. Anyway, this is called Making Bombs for Hitler. I gave it 4.5 stars. The next one I read is actually part of a series, and I read the first 2. So I'm going to start with Show Me a Sign. I loved this book. This is a 5-star read for me. I actually gushed a little bit about it in a previous book when I did my book haul, because I had just read the book and then I found it. I had read it on audio and ended up finding it in a book haul and was just delighted. So this is Show Me a Sign. The author is Clare LeZotte, or LeZotte, and it is an Own Voices. So the author is part of the ASL community. So I love that she is writing a story about a deaf character from the perspective of having lived that experience. It is historical fiction, though. This is set post-Revolutionary War in Martha's Vineyard. So what I didn't know, and I learned through the book, is that there was a large population and community of deaf settlers in that area. Our author is very good about recognizing that the land was originally Wampanoag, is the native tribe that is from there. So she does a good job of talking about the Wampanoag tribes that are there, the settlers, the contention as well as the efforts to work together are highlighted in this novel, but that's not what it centers on. This centers on Mary. And Mary was born deaf. Her father is deaf. Her mother is hearing. And from the very start of the book, you understand that she had a brother who was hearing as well, and he died. That's at the beginning. I'm not spoiling anything. And so Mary is living in a household that's grieving this situation. She's grieving this situation, and she's trying to navigate the world. Along comes this scientist. Now, the community is fascinating, and I really want to actually do some historical research on this because I love learning new things, and this was so new for me. The community was actually, there's 2 settlements in Martha's Vineyard that had a very high population of non-hearing settlers. And because of that, the entire village spoke in sign. They had their own language, and everyone signed. Whether you could hear or not, everyone was included. Everyone had value. Everyone was doing everything. So the schools taught in both sign and speaking, and people always made sure that they could, see what people were doing. It was so inclusive. And Mary has grown up in this, right? And this scientist comes to the village, and he is not at all like that. In fact, he's very rude to those who are deaf. He is ignorant of how to speak to people, and he has his own agenda. He is there to find out the cause of why so many people are born deaf. I think it's 1 in 4 or 1 in 12. It's a very large number. He ends up kidnapping Mary and taking her back to the mainland, and her experiences there are night and day for what she has always grown up with, being this valued, intelligent part of the community. The story kind of centers on her whole experience. You kind of watch as she processes and her family processes the grief, this new person coming to the island, and then her experience being basically kidnapped and, I don't want to say sold, but she was kind of taken to a place. They didn't understand the stuff that had happened before to bring her to where she was, and just her undervaluedness in that area. And she kind of gets a rude awakening for how people are treated who are deaf. So that brings me to the second book. However, there is a third book, and I actually found it. So I have a copy of the first and the third. I'm going to get myself a second one. I am so excited about this series. So Set Me Free is the second one. Spoiler alert, Mary does go back to the island. She is rescued in the first book. So in the second book, this one centers around her. She's a little bit older at this point, and one of the people that she had positively interacted with from the mainland reaches out to her in a letter and lets her know that she is working in a household that has a deaf child who is wild, doesn't have language, and is not thriving in where she's at. The child is 8, I want to say, and they're asking Mary to come and basically teach her sign, teach her how to function. Well, there's a big old mystery. I'm not going to tell you a whole heck of a lot about this one because it is really, it's a whirlwind. We go with Mary back to the mainland. She's at least treated with a little more dignity and respect than what she was treated with beforehand, but there is something going on in this household. A lot of secrets and a lot of undercover underhandedness, and just where did this girl come from, and how is it that she's being held in the manner that she's being held? Mary kind of sets about figuring out the mystery, and I will just say if you're a history buff, this is a really fun one. There's some cameos of famous people that show up in the book. It's heavy and it's hard, and there is some on-page child neglect, child abuse that's going on with this kid. So it's not an easy read. It is a good thing to be able to talk to kids about. So that is Set Me Free. So I gave Show Me a Sign 5 stars. I gave Set Me Free 4 stars. Love them both. They're wonderful. My next book that I read, I'm going to put it up here as well, was Obie Is Man Enough. This is by Schuyler Bailar. I loved this book. Again, an own voice story. In fact, the author shares a lot of their own personal experiences in this book. We have Obadiah, who is a trans young man who is, I want to say in 8th grade, and he is a swimmer. And being a trans athlete at this younger age, he's been in competitive swimming for a large part of his life. And the coach that had trained him was not supportive when about 2 years earlier, Obie transitioned. And so we have a supportive family, very affirming and loving. And you have Obadiah is half Korean, and my kids are, fun fact about Heather, my kids are a quarter Korean, and so some of the cultural pieces that were in this I loved. Obie has a really supportive family and grandparents and like this support system. And although he had to leave the swim team and the coach that he had beforehand, he does find a affirming, supportive coach and team. Oh my gosh, the book is phenomenal. It really is. It's because it's own voices, you get authentic experiences both on the outside of Obie as well as on the inside of Obie. And one of the things that I really enjoyed in the book is watching Obie's mental health. They've had a lot of support through this time period, and so they're at a point where they're dealing with horrific things. There is on-page bullying, slurs. It's heavy and it's hard, and there are trigger warnings on this one, and I really do want you to check out the trigger warnings before you read this one. But he has been doing the work, the good work, the work that you do for mental health, and it shows. And so on page where he will say something negative about himself, he will then also say, wait, this is not what I'm supposed to do. And you'll watch him process through. He'll process through panic. He'll process through esteem issues, self-loathing issues. Like there's pieces there that he's doing. And I'm going to get the wording right because I don't have the book and I don't have the quote, but I plan to own the book and I plan to write out the quote because it was so good. But there is a point in the book where Obie is talking about something that their therapist had told them. And that was that when someone has attacked you, you're feeling those knives and weapons against you. Do not pick up the weapon and use it against yourself. Don't repeat the words that someone is attacking you with to yourself. Oh my gosh. That is the best advice for all of us. Every single person on this planet needs to hear that. Don't pick up the weapon someone else is using against you and use it for yourself. Don't do it. So many ugly words that come at us, and then we use them against ourselves. Anyway, beautiful story. Loved it from start to finish. Great book. Really great trans representation. Love. So 5 stars on that one. The next one that I read is called Wishtree by Katherine Applegate. This one's pretty famous. A lot of people have heard of it in middle grade. You should have heard of Katherine Applegate. She is the author of the One and Only Ivan series, among other things. Pretty prolific author. Wishtree is a lot of fun. I've been wanting to read this for a while, and actually, this book is on loan to me from one of my students. I love that. So she had read it. She told me that I would like it and asked me if I wanted to borrow it. And I told her I would love to. I just needed it over like the holidays so I had time to read it. And oh my gosh, I'm so glad I did. Wishtree is so cute. It is about a tree that kind of steps in to help a neighborhood. So if you can imagine that. Wish trees apparently are possibly, don't quote me on this, but from the book, I kind of got the impression that this might be an Irish tradition, that there's this particular kind of tree in Ireland that maybe people tie wishes to. The tradition continued. This is set somewhere back east in the United States. This oak tree has been around for over 200 years. A woman that is still in that neighborhood. She lives across the street and owns 2 homes that are right beside the wish tree. Anyway, she's kind of responsible for the tree as well. And it's kind of through her family that the tradition started, and people, I think it's on May 1st, come and tie a wish to the tree. And of course, modern day people are pretty silly, and it's gotten some extreme ridiculousness things happened where people tie whatever they want onto the tree with their wish written on it, including underwear. The tree sits between 2 homes. A new family has moved into one of those homes, and they are Muslim. And the little girl is struggling to make friends that lives in that house. And she has, however, kind of made friends with the tree and the inhabitants of the tree. And you can kind of get a glimpse of some of the inhabitants. We have squirrel and a raccoon family and a possum family and a very special crow that lives in the tree. So she's kind of made this connection to the tree. The tree's name is Red, but Red really has grown attached to, the family. And right before Wish Day, the day that people come and do this, a couple days before, a teenager, someone comes in and basically carves a horrible word into the tree, a message for the family. And it's kind of heartbreaking and painful, has quite the impact on the community. Red, the tree, decides they need to intervene. And it's really just a sweet story. I recommend. I'm not going to tell you anything else. So I gave it 4 stars. The last book that I read in December was Mañanaland. It is by Pam Muñoz Ryan. I have been wanting to read this one for a while. I think I had a student last year who read this book, absolutely loved it. In fact, they read it like multiple times over the year. I think they read it at least twice at school that I know of. Very cute story, very timely due to some politics and perceptions and things going on in our country. The story follows Maximilian and his family. And Max's mom disappeared many, many years ago, and that has always kind of left a little bit of a hole in his life. And he's not really been allowed to ask questions. He's not really allowed to talk about her or ask too many questions. He gets a lot of pushback. And so here he is 11. He wants to play for the village team of football or soccer, and a new coach is coming in, and the coach is requiring that all the kids have birth certificates to prove that they are 11 or the right age. And there is a small problem in that Max does not have his birth certificate. And so his dad is going off to try and fix that problem. And Max kind of has a mystery on his hands. Why doesn't he have a birth certificate? And what is the history of all of these things? And his grandfather has always been a huge part of his life and has always told him these stories about Mañanaland, about the hidden ones, and about the guardians that help the hidden ones to get to Mañanaland. And the book kind of centers on Max learning about his family and embracing the future and learning a lot about himself and owning and becoming more aligned with his heart beliefs. I guess I'm gonna go with that. I gave Mañanaland 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. It was a great reading month. Like, there was so much good stuff in the month of December. So highly recommend. All of these books were fantastic. So thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you on the flip side. If you're enjoying, please feel free to hit subscribe. I would love to have you come back. Have a fabulous rest of your day, and we'll see you on the other side.